Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of LLG's Random But Real, where we have conversations about any and all things random with the entree, not a side dish, of mental health advocacy. As you know, I try to use my performance, literary, and communication art skills to bring awareness about mental health and other topics, such as the ones we've been talking about if you've been following us on this podcast. And I hope that you are. Therefore, whether I'm singing, speaking, or writing, I try to make my words melodic, like music to your ears. And remember that the information that Erica and I speak about or whatever we share are our own thoughts. We are not acting in the capacity of counselors in this or on this podcast. So if you need professional help, please let us know. We will be glad to refer you to someone. But just wanted to like put that out there. If you do need help, definitely please seek a professional, licensed counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, social worker. I do want to give a trigger warning. I will be talking about something that happened to me at the last homecoming that I went to. And, we'll see where this goes. I could end up crying or not crying. I never know when I'm going to be triggered. So, but before we get started, you want to say hello, Erica?
Hello, everyone.
That's it.
Well, just so happy that they're here joining us.
Okay. All right, we're getting straight to the point, I guess.
Yeah.
So, if you have read my book 21 Days, which I should probably have it out, but it's on the other side now of the room. But 21 Days actually speaks about some of the things that I have experienced in my life as I speak about relationships. We are going to have the co-author Tracy and Worley on soon, so you'll be able to just kind of hear her story in that. And one of the things that I talk about is my experience with, then I guess they would say more date rape, but it's also considered acquaintance rape. Um, and I have gone to homecoming at my alma mater. You read the book. I don't know if I'm gonna put that out there now, but if you've been following me, you already know where I went to school. Not ashamed about it at all. I love my school, and I might actually say it before the end of the podcast. And the last 2 years, the person that raped me was at these events that I attended. I have not seen this guy. Mm, my mom died in 2017, and that was the last year that I had seen him, and that was at a tailgate. Tailgates outside, it's more room. You can easily get away from a person if you want to. He wasn't bothering me or anything like that, but every time I see him, even all these years later, this happened to me in 1991. I am still triggered. Um, I wish that I wasn't. I wish it didn't bother me. Um, I speak about it because I want other people also to be healed from the process and also to let people know that it's okay to feel however they feel when it comes to any type of assault, abuse, molestation, rape, you know, attempting or, to try any of those things. And it was interesting because this year he was the first person that I saw when I went to the event. And I don't know if anything, it doesn't have to be this, but anything that you've experienced years ago has caused you or caused a trigger for you. Has that been something that you've ever experienced or anyone that you know? It doesn't have to be this particular thing, but
Right. Well, I mean, because we are talking about this, I can say yes to both. For me, I was molested by a family member when I was maybe about six, seven, maybe about seven. I
so
don't know that
sorry.
I'm triggered. Thank you. I don't know that I'm triggered by it or have been over the years. Probably didn't pay triggers attention in that sense.
Mhm.
But I've healed from that for a couple of reasons. So what I won't say on this is what side of my family
Mhm.
this came from. But what I will say
Mhm.
is that my family members do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of my parents, who are both deceased, um, and a grandmother, both of my grandmothers are deceased. So for me, the way that it was handled with my parents, my mother specifically, um, I'm okay. Like, I was taken to counseling. I vividly do recall that, going to a counselor at a young age. But to be honest, there were times over the years I'd have to like just ask my mom details because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't quite recall them. Now, I don't know if that was because of my age. I don't know if that's because it's not something I really wanted to remember, or if that's just kind of like how my mind works, because there are things about my childhood good that I really can't remember, right? So I remember talking to my mom prior to her passing, and my mom passed away in 2018, in December of 2018. But sometime during the course of that year, it came up. We talked about it because I was just trying to refresh some things about my memory. So again, I don't know that I have triggers about it, but I without going into too much detail, I did have to have a conversation with my husband one time, just around intimacy and
Mm-hmm.
how he would do certain things, and
Mm-hmm.
how I was impacted by that situation, and so I didn't want him to do, what he was doing in that way.
Mm-hmm.
That was like years ago, but then I had to like have that conversation again even more recently because it was out of his mind. Like, he just didn't recall me telling
Right.
him that and how it affected me or how I felt about it. I don't want to say he didn't care,
Mm-hmm. I
but he
understand.
just did not think about it. Right. So that was me personally. Then I have a girlfriend, that I know, who was raped by a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
So not like date rape or acquaintance rape. And so just walking that path with her post rape, just being a friend, and seeing how that person gets triggered, around certain times, and the memories coming back, whatever, and just trying to support. So I would venture to say, Lisa, and I'm not coming off of any official statistics here, but as a woman, if we have a group of friends, and I won't put a number to it, but my group that I speak of regularly, there's 8 of us, right? As a woman with a group of friends, I would imagine there's at least one woman in the group. Even if the group is 2 people, there's at least one woman that has probably personally experienced, or if she herself has not personally experienced it, she knows someone who has, right?
Absolutely.
And that's just unfortunate, that in this world, in this society, we have to deal with that.
Very
I
true.
mean, we can certainly go to the Bible, and we can see women who were misused and abused, and taken advantage of. But I'm thankful that, there's ways for healing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thankful that, as women we can support each other. Um, but it's unfortunate that that is can be many of our experiences.
So while you were saying that, I decided to go and just Google it just
Hmm.
to see. And so RAIN, RAINN. Um, I'll look for the. I can't think of the name of the act for the acronym now, but it says everyone is affected by sexual violence. 1 out of every 6 American women has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. Um, or 1 out of 33 have experienced an attempted or completed rape. Um, 3% of men, they're saying. So more women
Hmm.
technically than men, but men do
Hmm.
get raped too.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you said, this is one of the things, or one of my main takeaways is a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And even though now in your profession, even though it is some form of counseling, I think that a lot of us that are in the field don't address the triggers that we might have had.
Yeah.
Um, I'm actually healed from it too, believe it or not. But most people also don't have to consistently see the person that
Facts.
caused it.
Facts.
And if the person is deceased, then it makes it a little bit easier, in my opinion. If the person is not in my regular daily findings because I was also sexually abused and molested, and those were by family members, and I don't see them very often. In fact, I think I've shared on here one of them. The last time I saw them was at my mom's funeral, and I was not selfish in not allowing that person to express their, um, sorrow and attend the funeral. But I don't remember any of my family members asking me, "Hey, are you okay?" That
Yeah.
this person is there, and they
Yeah.
were quite aware. When you mentioned, what you said, a lot of people forget. I don't think it's intentional. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think though, if we don't continue to advocate and speak about it because it did not happen to them, it's very easy to put that behind them and
Yeah.
not because it's not their experience. Um, I probably haven't shared on here on this platform what happened to me, um, last summer or during the summer, where a family member was upset with me because I revealed or shared to them that their child had said some things to me inappropriately. And one of the things that I've learned is that a lot of grooming starts with conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And what was said to me, whether, was the person's no more than 5 years older. And it is not here on this earth to defend themselves. I will say that. But I don't need a defense. That's not my reasoning. Anytime I share what I've gone through is usually one to heal me and also to free others. It's not to it's a really hard lonely lane to have to endure what I've experienced so many different times from different people and walk it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that somebody would rather me be quiet and just share it with my counselor or just tell my friends, as opposed to if I want to scream it from the rooftops, um, I should be able to. I
Right.
was looking at a picture that was taken of this person and another person that I actually knew. And to be honest, the picture was a really nice picture. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the person isn't unattractive, you know. Um, but when this happened to me, I had a boyfriend in college, and I was not trying to date him. I wasn't interested in dating him. I was just bored and tired because I was studying all the time. I was a music major at the time. 17 credits for us could have been like 10 classes. We had a lot of
Mm.
1 and 2
Mm.
credit classes.
Yeah.
So you also have rehearsals. And
Mm-hmm.
if you read the book, you'll find out that technically I wasn't even supposed to be on campus. I was supposed to be at a concert. So it's so ironic the way that things went down. Um, and I hope that you all take the time to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when I think about like the correlations between what I experienced with this person, and I mean, yes, I knew who he was. He was a popular guy on campus, but I didn't know him well. It wasn't like we had been friends for years. I was a freshman in college. I
Mm-hmm.
started in August. This happened Labor Day weekend.
Mm.
So in all, it probably wasn't the same thing as your girlfriend because I did know his name. I knew, what I'm saying, not complete stranger, but
Right.
less than 30 days. I think we started the second week in August, so it wasn't even a full month. Or yeah, and every Labor Day, I'm also triggered. I
Mm.
don't necessarily realize that that's what I'm feeling until after. And I think I remember sharing that with you like this year. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, it was probably like 10 o'clock at night that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the anniversary of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It forever changed my life. I think I was too young to pinpoint the things that happened to me from my family members.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one I was probably under 5, maybe both, um, 5 and 6, somewhere between 4 and 6 years old. And it was a time where I really wish my mom was alive because I have more questions now that she's deceased
Mm-hmm.
than I did when she was alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any type of sexual assault awareness is often not spoken about. It's
Right.
taboo, especially in the African American community. And so although I could talk to my mom about anything, and I'm grateful, whether she wanted to hear it or not, she would listen. Gosh, the amount of questions that I have now probably supersede or exceed those that I had then.
Yeah.
And I can't ever ask her. And so sometimes that creates even more pain. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do. I do.
Yeah.
Because again, I can't ask my mother any longer,
Yeah.
for my own story too, right? Because I don't remember everything or whatever. But as you were talking, it brought to mind something that happened when I was in elementary school.
Mhm.
So when I moved to Silver Spring, I met two young ladies, black girls, and we became, a trio of friends. And we must have been in about the fourth, maybe the fifth grade.
Mhm.
And we were hanging out with one of them and her cousin, an older cousin, not extremely older than us, but not exactly our age. I kind of recall that. He was in town because I don't think he lived in Maryland. Um, and I can't recall all the details, but something along the line of he wanted her to do something or not do something, or she wanted him or something, whatever it was, he, for her silence, I think it like for her to not tell something, he like wanted to be able to see me and the other friend, maybe even her too, the three of us, like he wanted to see us. It's very vague, but I know what happened. I know something happened, that he held over her, and she came to us like, I need y'all to do this with me and for me or whatever.
Mhm.
um he didn't touch us. I don't recall being touched or anything like that, but I'm sharing this because, I mean, just think about that, right? Like, how often does something like that happen to us as little girls, young women, um at any age, at all ages probably. And so now that I'm working even in an elementary school, because previously I was in the high school setting, so you're looking for, things more age appropriate. Okay, these are teenagers, these things are happening, but with our young
Elementary.
kids, right?
It's
Yeah,
happening even
so
younger. I mean, I was counselor elementary, and middle school, and the same things that were happening in high. I've also worked in high school, were happening to them, and it's happening younger, especially the molestation part. So
yeah,
I hope that even through all this, that you all are vigilant, because even the greatest parent sometimes doesn't know what's happening with their child,
yeah.
um, and family has easy access.
My mother, she barely let my sister and I like stay over, especially
Mhm.
outside of the family. But even within the family, sometimes it was like, no, no, no. And I was probably kind of similar to that. Like, your friends can come to our house versus my kids. But my youngest son, he would kind of go stay the night with anybody. The middle two had each other. They were like best friends, so they never wanted to leave each other. The older
Mhm.
one, sometimes she would go, sometimes she wouldn't. But the younger one, I recall like he wanted to go over other people's houses, and I would let him, within the family and sometimes within his friends. But I'm not going to sit here and suggest that I wasn't one of those mothers that was just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I need them. You want to keep your kids close so that nothing can
Mhm.
happen to them. So
Right.
what I would say to anyone, listening to us, especially from a parenting perspective, first and foremost is prayer, right? Like, we can't control anything or everything. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can partner with God. We can partner with God in prayer. And so even now, as young adults, having daughters who are over 21, both of them, I still pray over them. Because anything can happen to a young woman,
Absolutely.
right? And my younger daughter, prior to getting her car this past summer, she would come home on the break and she was working, and or she just had to go somewhere, and she would very occasionally take an Uber. And while that didn't really bother me, then it did bother me, because then I was like, wait a minute, girls just be disappearing. They just be so, whenever she would have, I would do anything for her to not get in an Uber. But if she had to get in that Uber, it was like, all right, call me while you're in there. All right, let's stay on the phone, or call me when you get there. it's just so different now.
It is.
I just don't recall when we were growing up. And I know I'm just a few years older than you, but our generation, right? I just don't recall thinking about being snatched up
Right.
and disappearing. But the talk about how young black girls are being snatched and disappearing, nowadays at such an alarming rate. But anything can happen. So I say that to say, I just encourage people to first and foremost pray and just be diligent. Yes, like we both just shared, it could be family, it could be someone you kind of know, getting to know, and it could be someone you absolutely don't know. So you can't necessarily predict what, but you can do certain things to prepare and be aware, to try to keep yourself as safe as possible or keep those around you as safe as possible.
Hmm. So I agree. I wanted to read. So RAIN stands for Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, and you can go to rain.org to find out more information about that. It's crazy because when I was in school and when this stuff was happening to me, first of all, there was no internet.
Right.
So, that makes me sound old, but I'm not that old.
No,
Half a
we're not
century
that
plus
old,
one.
but there was
But
no internet or no cell phones.
no, neither. And so, then you were talking about Uber now. Well, it wasn't Uber or Lyft then, it was taxis. And,
Taxis.
I don't think I've ever read or heard of a story where the taxi cab driver, went away with person. Like things happen, right? But I don't remember hearing
Right.
horror stories about that. So I do agree, in that sense. And, I'm hoping that I know some people get tired because I've heard, they're like, "You're not over that yet?" Or like I said, my family was just like, "What's your counselor for?" Like, I'm only supposed to talk about this to my counselor. So what
Mhm.
about the countless number of other people that I have contact with, whether I'm singing, speaking, or writing? Um, why shouldn't I talk about, you know, this with other people to try to prohibit it from happening to them? What about the larger scale things that happen from families? Because this is the same side for me. It's the same side of the family where
Mhm.
this happened. So if it happened
Mhm.
multiple times, whether it was just in the words that were said or the actual actions, because those words can lead to actions. And then, in a sense, like I've said and been very open about, learned behavior caused me to make some really poor choices and decisions. And nothing but the grace of God has kept me honestly alive.
Mhm.
Um, it's funny, my cousin on my other side of the family was at the homecoming with me and tailgating with me. He was like, "You should say something to him." And I've said something to him before. He did, I want to put out there, did apologize for what he did. Um, but now there were some other things that happened after that in conversation that I now feel like I was the person that caused the harm instead of the other way around.
Mhm.
Um, we he saw me, I saw him, you know, this was not the first time, and so now he avoids me, like a plague.
Mhm.
Whereas when he wanted to apologize to me, he came up to me and said something. So without going into details of what else took place, I would just love to go because I'm the type of person, I've always been one to confront situations. I'm not going to, and then I'm a restorative approaches psych coordinator. In my school, I love restorative practices and restorative justice. We use the terms interchangeably in my county, but if I have an issue, I'm always going to try to resolve that harm that's
Mhm.
taken place. And like I said, I've forgiven him for what he did, but it still does not take away sometimes how uncomfortable I feel in that space. I
Mhm.
don't know that I would be alone with him ever again. And being at a party or an event that's indoors, like I said, is a lot different than being at a tailgate where we're outdoors and we get to go from one place to the next, and um, you know, it's not closed in. I'm very grateful, and I will shout out my friend Tonya because she asked me several times that night, "Are you okay? You good?" And then even when I told my brother when I got home, he's like, "I'm sorry, you all right?" That's what I needed. That's the type of support
Mhm.
that I needed to hear in those moments. I think you said, I'm sorry. Like, just people that genuinely care to want to know if I'm okay,
Yeah.
because I may see him for the rest of my life, because I'm not going to stop going to homecoming.
Right. Right.
I will face my fears, anxieties, the pains, whatever. And yeah, I'm stopping because I'm like, yeah, I might face them, but I could also turn into the Hulk in that moment. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Those of you all who know that that's my, if I'm triggered, especially with the CPTSD, then I turn into the Hulk, and you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Um, really, I mean, yeah, the only thing I really don't do is turn green, but
Yeah.
you can tell that there's been an atmosphere shift
Yeah.
when I'm in that space. And so I'm hoping that, if nothing else, this starts the conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to have a part two, to talk about this. And maybe I'll have like more facts or things you can do to help individuals who have kind of gone through it. But I think it's an important conversation. I think we have to get past things being taboo and us not speaking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know our time is winding down, but I would simply say and add this: like self care is important, right? And I can't determine what your self care is for you, no more than you can determine what my self care is for me. Of course, we can give generals about types of self care or speak to what we do, but my prayer for you and anyone else experiencing what we have experienced, um, is that you will continue on the journey of self care, that will enable you to not be triggered. I'm not asking you to forget about it. I'm not asking you to get over it. I'm not asking you to do anything other than to just not be triggered. You can reflect, you can talk, you can not, you can do anything. But my prayer is that there will not be the harm and the feelings that come with being triggered, for you, for myself, for anyone else, like I said, that has experienced and walked down these pathways similar to, like, yes, that kind of thing happened to me too. So that is my prayer. I believe that it can be such. Just because I know what God has done for me, to be able to, and while our experiences are very different, but to be able to come from an experience, a lived experience, and be okay. So,
So we'll see. I might want to dive into that a little bit more. Um, because I also don't feel like every trigger is bad.
no.
I think that it heightens your awareness, absolutely. But yeah, might have to tap into that some more. But I do thank you all for joining us today. Stay tuned for part two. And if there's ever any topics that you want us to talk about, shoot, I've been through so much, I could probably write another book. And people are trying to get me to do one. But and I'm sure you can say the same thing too, Erica.
Mm,
Please follow me on all social media platforms at One Singing Lady, and that's the numeral one. On YouTube, you spell it out, ONESINGINGLADY. And my website is www.lisalgilliam.com. I hope that you will, like, follow, subscribe, even this podcast, LOG's Random But Real, on all platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you can find podcasts, please, listen to us. Check
yeah.
us out.
Yeah.
Follow us. We appreciate it. Share it on social media. Let other people know, because you never know. Somebody might have gone through the same or similar experience and might, learn something from that. And again, if you need help, please reach out to a licensed professional to get the help that you need to process through whatever the feelings you might be having, even when you listen to this. But
Yes.
anything you want to say before we go, Erica?
Just, uh, good night to all, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending on when they're
Right.
listening. And until
Absolutely.
next time, until next time,
All right. We will see you all later. Lisa, one singing Lady Gilliam out.
Erica out.